This is the 15-year sequel to the 2007 original film that really made Amy Adams a star in Hollywood, Enchanted, back in 2007. This film brings back the original cast members of Amy Adams, Patrick Dempsey, Idina Menzel, and James Marsden. It brings in a new cast led by Maya Rudolph and Gabriella Baldacchino. And as I said, the film actually does take place 15 years after the original film, and Giselle is not too happy. She's kind of done with New York, and she found this new town called Andalasia. Sorry, not Andalasia, a new town where she and her family are moving to. But things start to go wrong. She tries to turn that new town into Andalasia, a fairy tale town, which is turning her into a wicked stepmother. The film is an hour and 59 minutes and is PG. Welcome back to a brand new movie review here on Max Talks Movies. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, ring the bell if you're new to the channel. I do movie reviews, TV show reviews, movie rankings, and a box office breakdown show. So please subscribe, ring the bell if you're new to the channel. Also, comment down below. What are your thoughts? First of all, if you've seen Disenchanted, did you like it? Did you not like it? Is it better, worse than the first film? What do you wish you saw this in a movie theater than just originally on Disney Plus? All those thoughts. And also, if you have not seen this film, tell me, are you not watching it because you didn't see the first one? Are you going to watch back to back? Are you saving this movie for Christmas time? Let me know in the comment section. Also, please like the video, guys. Thumbs up on that's how you support this channel. So this is the first role that I really saw Amy Adams in. Crazy to say this, but Enchanted came out when I was 5 years old. I definitely remember watching Enchanted. I've seen it multiple times, but it's not a movie that I have a craving for, that I love, that I rewatch every year. And it's just not one of my favorite Amy Adams performances. It's just a movie that I get why it took Amy Adams to stardom. There's some funny moments in that film. I think it's a good movie, but it's not as special as I think a lot of other fans believe it. So I don't have that emotional attachment to these characters as much as other people. And it got released on Disney Plus, which just made me a bit nervous, but let's get into this movie. So my positives and my negatives I score. The biggest positive of the movie is that luckily this movie has Amy Adams in it, because I'll just be, again, a little bit biased, I guess. She's my favorite actress ever. And I do believe that since Enchanted, she really has become that great performer on screen, and she continues that here. She also has a producing credit on this film as well. So she really is her baby, this franchise, with putting this character together. And she is, I think, really fantastic in this movie for multiple reasons. She gets to play with, obviously, the charming, the colorful, the vibrant, good person, Giselle. But once she makes this wish and things kind of get out of hand, there's a sequence in the movie, or sequences in the movie, where she's kind of being a bad person, and she still oozes that charisma and star power in both roles, which actually has made me really want her to actually play a villain in a movie really soon, because she was chewing up the scenery once she becomes this wicked stepmother, which is actually thoroughly entertaining because her performance is so fantastic, and she can perform both of them really good. She'd be that charming victim of a hero, and then be this dastardly scene-chewing villain, and that's why she's one of the best actors working today, and one of my favorite actors of all time and favorite actress of all time. She's just so fantastic. And I think another actress, this movie could have definitely fallen to pieces, but she always keeps this movie watchable and interesting because she's so dynamic in both roles, playing the Giselle and the wicked stepmother version of Giselle. So hopefully maybe this gives people, viewers, that maybe Amy Adams should be playing a villain maybe in something. I would love to see that, because she was seriously chewing up the scenery in certain parts. Patrick Dempsey has a lot more to do here than the first film, but from a story point of view, he doesn't have as interesting of a role. But him and Amy Adams have a good dynamic as a couple. As well, I think Gabriel Baldacchino also did a really solid job. He plays, again, Giselle and Robert's stepdaughter that they had at the end of the first film, and now she's grown up as a teenager, and she's kind of one of the more focal points of the entire film. And I actually thought she did a very good job. And if it was actually her singing, I could believe, because it was a really good singing in her parts of the film. Also, I think Maya Rudolph does a fine job. It's not that of an interesting character, but it's always fun to see Maya Rudolph, especially in the Disney version, as well. And of course, the scene-stealing duo of Idina Menzel and James Marsden is back in this movie. Menzel has a lot more to do than Marsden, which I was very disappointed because James Marsden was my favorite character in the first film, and he's still my favorite character. And every time he's on screen, the movie is hilarious, and he's hilarious in the film. But he is not in the movie. Really, in live action, he has, 2 scenes in the movie. Both scenes are hilarious, but he just isn't in the movie that much. Idina Menzel finally has, I think, her own song. I don't think she had a song in the first film. I think the song that she did have in the first film was deleted. But she has a big song that the movie heavily promotes because they play it again in the credits. But she's very good in this movie as well. Again, her singing is really excellent. And the duo of Marsden and Menzel, I think, is still great. If there's any reason to keep doing films in this franchise, I think doing Marsden and Menzel stuff, I think it might be the way to go, even though I'm the biggest, Amy Adams person. As I said, once they get outside of this house, the actual production design of the movie and the town actually looks really nice, and doesn't feel like a streaming movie. When they're just in the house and walking around the house, it feels very Disney Channel. But when they walk around, it's very Disney. It's very theatrical, which I thought was quite good. None of the songs are bad, but the songs are pretty solid in this movie. None as iconic as the songs in the first one. It's just a very easy film to watch. I was not hating myself watching this movie. Also, wasn't totally enjoying myself, and that's what I'll get in my negatives here. Is that I just don't believe this movie comes together that much. It's really carried by these actors and some of the fun characters in the film, but the actual story just isn't that interesting. They kind of do too many subplots for this type of movie. Obviously, it was a tough task for Maya Rudolph to match what Susan Sarandon did in the first Enchanted, but it just wasn't that entertaining of a villain. They tried to make her like a villain both in the real world and then in Giselle's fantasy world. And I actually found her a bit more interesting in the real world than I did in the fantasy world. That was something there. As I said, they give Robert this whole subplot when he's in the fantasy, when he's fantasy-ized, I guess you want to say. And it just was a distraction, I think, of the movie. And every time we kind of cut back to Robert doing his own adventures, the film wasn't that interesting because it's not what the main story is, and it just doesn't feel that necessary. And for me, the comedy in those scenes were not working. As I said, there's none of the songs for me were that catchy at all. I think the best song was a song sang by Amy Adams and Maya Rudolph, and they're both villains and going up against each other. There's a song there that's really good. But other than that, the rest of the songs I was kind of underwhelmed by. They weren't bad, but they weren't like special songs, I think, as a lot of people believe the first film brought to the table. I still like that balance of 2D and 3D animation. The 2D animation and then going back to live action, but when there was an animated, I'm not going to give spoilers, but it was an animated animal in this film that talks in the fairy tale world, and the CGI is really bad. And that's why sometimes the movie will feel cheap and sometimes it'll feel theatrical. So I think the movie should have just gone all in on one of them. If it's a Disney Plus streaming movie, you don't have to go all out. But if you're theatrical, then go with a theatrical look. I think the movie didn't have a really, really hard time balancing some shots looking very cheap and some shots looking very expensive. And there's just a tough dichotomy between the two of those. But the CGI when they're in the live action world is not very good at all. It's really cheap CGI, and you can definitely tell it is. And overall, I just didn't enjoy myself as much as I wanted to. It's okay at best. It's really carried by Amy Adams with this performance. And with other fun performances as well. The movie, I think the story doesn't come all the way together. And you can kind of see everything that's going to happen coming a mile away. So I'm going to give Disenchanted a 2.5 out of 5. I'm going to go 48% for Disenchanted. I'll go 50. I'll go right down the middle of 50%. This performance really carried me to a 50%. So 50% for Disenchanted. That's my thoughts on this film. Please like the video, subscribe, ring the bell. More videos are coming, including my box office breakdown show, review of the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, and more movie reviews are coming down the line. So please subscribe, ring the bell. I'll see you guys soon.